Imagine you're looking at a balancing scale with everything you do for other people on one side and everything you do for yourself on the other side. If it isn't balanced, maybe it's time to spend a little more time on you. And therapy is a great place to start. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online who can help you find that balance and stick to it. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/positive.
All right, welcome back, everybody, into Sports Daily. Glad to have you here. By the way, you could win a trip to see Guns N' Roses at a U.S. stop of your choice on their 2023 World Tour, including round-trip airfare, hotel, tickets, and a $200 gift card. Go to kfhradio.com to enter for the chance to win this national contest. You can get your tickets now at livenation.com. The IHOP hotline is open. 869-1240 is that number. We've got Adrian Griffin being inducted into the Wichita Sports Hall of Fame. Top of the next hour. Excited to talk to Adrian Griffin. Haven't had the chance to do that. It's been a long time since we've been able to catch up with him. So that'll be interesting to get in there a little bit later. We've got some giveaways coming for you as well throughout the hour here. So excited about that. The news that broke off the top is Ernst Udeh is into the portal on the last day that he could get into the portal. Hunter Dickinson comes over. Hunter Dickinson, and Tommy, I'm interested in this because we didn't get a chance yesterday to talk about Hunter Dickinson and his, comments on his podcast of, Michigan wasn't even offering him six figures. He basically made the point of, like, people give me a hard time. Like, you'd all leave your jobs for a $10,000 raise. What do you think I'm going to do? And Michigan, it's not a knock on Michigan, I think, is him trying to provide some perspective, which I totally agree with, by the way. There are rumors of like a $2 million NIL deal per year for 2 years. And I just wonder with Udeh, if there wasn't the rumblings of Dickinson being a 2-year player, if Udeh sticks around or if this was a foregone conclusion. I don't think it was a foregone conclusion because I don't think he would have waited until the absolute end to jump in if it was. It's really interesting. And, maybe it's just honest conversations that have happened over the last week or so. But KU now, without Udeh, and they've basically had all their centers transfer out. So they lose 3, right? And they gain 1. It was a problem last year. Now, Dickinson's great. I don't think there's anybody on the planet that wouldn't say, yeah, you gain Dickinson and you lose Udeh. It's a net win for KU. Of course it is. But you gain Dickinson and you lose all 3 of your centers. Now what? And I think you alluded to it in the beginning. All attention goes to Mackenzie Mbako, who is a big. He's not a center, but he is a big. Maybe that's enough, Tommy. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been pretty apparent that if that NIL deal that has been rumored that Dickinson allegedly received $2 million for 2 years, if that's accurate and legitimate, that it's pretty clear that the Jayhawks are going all in on Dickinson, not just for this year, but for next year as well. And that probably signaled to not only Ernst Udeh, but Zuby Ejiofor that they were going to be riding the pine, not only this season, but potentially next season as well. And so I wasn't surprised to see Zuby Ejiofor enter the transfer portal because in my mind on the depth chart, he would have went to 3rd on the depth chart at the 5. But, I don't know. I felt like Ernst Udeh showed some really good flashes this last season, provided a different kind of game at that position than what KJ Adams could do. He's taller, he's longer than KJ Adams is. But I think that it's been pretty apparent that, if that's what ultimately got Hunter Dickinson to come to KU, then I think in Uday's mind, he thought, well, I'm not going to get a whole lot of playing time, number 1, and maybe I can make more money in NIL at another institution, number 2. So while I'm surprised by the decision, I get it. I understand why we're seeing the bigs transfer out at KU, and now it's going to be up to the Jayhawks to try to figure out how they fill in that backup role at the 5 position. What happens if Hunter Dickinson gets into foul trouble in a game? Who are they going to go with? Are they going to roll back with KJ Adams at the 5 and go with this a smaller lineup? What does it mean when you've got, because I would imagine that the plan would be for Dickinson at 5, Adams at the 4 to start, and then what do you do? I mean, like, how do you have a backup role, for somebody if you don't have that person on the roster? So it's going to be important, I think, for Bill Self to go out and try to find a backup.
Yeah, I mean, you got to find a backup. I think, though, I don't know what's still out there. Mbako backing up KJ Adams and Dickinson to some degree is probably going to be like the highest ceiling outcome that can come of this, right? So, and the thing about Mbako that's interesting, and I have been, and this is before Ernst Udeh, right? Now that Ernst Udeh's out, like, I really hope KU is able to get Mbako. But it makes it interesting that we have the new transfer thing in there. If you're Mbako now, you can only do this one time for free. So is KU going to be the best spot? Like, what's KJ Adams' long-term future? What's Hunter Dickinson's long-term?
Does that actually, is that the case with Mbako? Because he's a recruit. He's not a transfer. Like, he hasn't played, like, he's coming out of high school. So if he commits, he'll still have a transfer, right? Like,
did he sign a letter of intent? I don't know. I
don't know how that works. I'm not sure how that exactly works.
That's a good point, because
I
don't know
he was committed to Duke, but I don't know if he had. I think he might have requested to be released from that letter of intent with Duke, and they agreed. I can't imagine that would count as your transfer, right? You haven't played a game for the team.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know what signing. I guess if they release you from it, you're not transferring. I don't know. Right. Because a letter of intent, if it's signed. Now, was it a commitment or a signed
I don't know.
Letter of intent?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, now I don't know either. So maybe then it does become a little bit, more free for Mbako to. That probably increases KU's chances. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, unless it was a signed letter of intent, and I'm trying to look. I'm trying to look if that was the case. That'll be interesting. I'll try and figure out the answer to that. But so I still think that's the best possible outcome. I don't know, though, if it's the high, it's not the highest floor outcome. It might be the highest ceiling outcome, but it's not the highest floor outcome, right? Like, is there anybody out there that can provide depth at the level KU needs it to be at? Because right now there isn't really any. Like, what is it behind Adams and Dickinson right now? I mean, it's
it. That's literally it. As it stands right now. I mean, there are 2 returners from last season's team in DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams. That's it. That is literally it, returning from last year's team. There's not another big man behind Hunter Dickinson and then, KJ Adams. But, I don't know. Can Mbako play the 4? And if Mbako plays the 4, then you could slide Adams to the 5 if Dickinson gets into foul trouble. Like, I think that'd probably be the way that you would go. Yep. But of course, you would like to have a little bit more insurance and have at least another big man on the roster, on the bench. And so, while Bill Self, I've got no doubt he will be able to try to, move the pieces around and slide players in different areas. And Adams has experience at the 5, and he could back up Dickinson at the 5 while also starting at the 4. That's all well and good. You need another body, though, to come off the bench.
But it's not just another body. If you, like, let's say you don't get Mbako, then it's not just a body. Like, you've got to have somebody that can play, right? Like, you got to have somebody.
They have 3 scholarships available as of right now, with Kyle Cuff transferring, Zuby Ejiofor transferring, and now Ernst Udeh transferring. There are 3 open scholarships as of this second right now. Assuming Mbako commits, you've got 2. So you've got 2 players that you can work with. And, of course, we mentioned before, it's the final day that players can enter the transfer portal. There could easily be additional targets out there, that Bill Self goes after to try to fill those 2 remaining roster spots.
Okay, so I'm looking at what I think is the portal, a portal listing on 24/7. I have no idea. There is an NC State center named Isaiah Miranda, who I think has not committed anywhere. There's a power forward from Creighton, Arthur Kaluma, who we know more about, but that
he might be an NBA guy. I think he was one of the guys that tested the waters in the NBA. Maybe he pulled out. I don't know, but he was pretty
They
dynamite.
they
for
have a
Creighton.
while. They have a
Right.
while to be able to pull out. Let's see. There's a couple other power forwards. There's a Maryland power forward. I'm just looking at, and I don't know these players at all, so I'm just looking at their star ratings basically. And you go down. There's some guys. There's a guy from Nebraska. Anybody know about Wilhelm Breidenbach? He's a center.
It's a hell of a name.
I know. He looks like a Wilhelm Breidenbach too. That's a center in the portal right now with a couple of years who I don't think is committed. I'm trying to see if there's any familiar names that we know. There's the KU guys in there are all pretty highly rated. But it's interesting. It's really, anybody know if Mo Udeze still has any eligibility? Where's that really experienced player that can come in and give minutes? There are probably plenty of guys that KU can go get that haven't been on KU's radar, who will now become on KU's radar, that will be like, heck yeah, let me come play for KU, right? And really, like, the opportunity's there. And Mbako's going to have something to do with this, right? But there's going to be a pretty big opportunity for somebody to be able to come in and contribute, because what KU lacks right now is minutes. Because at that position, Dickinson can't play a full game. In the combination of Dickinson and Adams for sure can't play a full game. So, if it's Mbako, who's very young and we don't know a whole lot about, obviously, other than he's really talented, can he slide in right away and play the 4 at this level? I don't know. And if he does, what happens if both Dickinson and Adams need a minute? Then what do you do? Right? Who?
Yeah. I've tried to, in my mind, assuming Mbako commits to Kansas, I've tried to project in my mind what the starting 5 would look like for Kansas. And really, outside of DeJuan Harris at point guard, probably KJ Adams at the 4 and Dickinson at the 5. That's really all I've got. I mean, is Mbako
talented they have enough for
start?
The 2 other spots.
I know. I'm just I'm wondering who those players are going to be. Is Mbako talented enough to start right away at the wing? And then who's the shooting guard going to be? Is it Nick Timberlake from Towson? Is it Elmarco Jackson, who was a highly touted recruit coming in? Is he going to be able to start from the beginning? Arterio Morris, the Texas Longhorns transfer that's coming in, will he start right away? I just don't know. And there are a lot of times where you've got teams, and not just at KU, but in general, where you look at their roster and you're like, all right, I can pinpoint exactly who that starting 5 is. I'm not sure. Especially at shooting guard and at wing, who Bill Self is going to want to go with. And there's time to figure that out. But that part of it's really interesting to me.
So I'm looking at Adam Finkelstein, the director of scouting for 24/7's scouting report on Mbako. And he's a shooter according to Finkelstein. Just, he's 6'8", 210. He's a big dude. He's a national top 10 player, but he can shoot according to this, right? And, so maybe is he even a fit to be a true power forward? I don't know. I mean, he's 6'8", but other than that, if his game is more on the outside, maybe he does fit as a potential starter, but not at 4, at 3, right? That's interesting too. Hopefully, and what I would assume will happen now is KU can go find some really experienced bigs, but the problem with that is at the top end of that, people are in the portal so they can go play. Now, there may be some people who are in it to go try to win a national championship, and those are the players you have to identify, right? Who's willing to come in and, try to ride this with us through a national championship, and who's coming in because they got to have more minutes. And maybe there's talented guys that would be willing to come in and take a lesser role than whatever they just left. Maybe. I mean, I suppose that's what Kevin McCullough did to some degree, right? He sort of did that. Remy Martin certainly did that. So maybe it's out there. Maybe you can go find that senior that just wants to take a shot at a natty. Has anybody checked in with Mitch Lightfoot? Does he have a 9th year of eligibility?
What's
hanging
Perry
in there.
Ellis doing? Can he
Where
come
is
back
Perry
for a
Ellis right now? Yeah,
13th
like
year?
where's some
You
of
know,
those?
The one other thing I want to point out is that, we did see flashes from Ernst Udeh last season. And I have no doubt in my mind that getting Hunter Dickinson was the best possible thing that could have happened in the portal for the Jayhawks. He is an immediate game changer. He makes KU, an immediate title contender with DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, and, whoever else is out there for KU. So that's all well and good. That's great. That being said, keep your eyes on where Ernst Udeh ends up, because that guy has a chance to be great at whatever school he goes to.
Go to K-State.
He's going to be somebody that we're going to be talking about and watching for the next couple of years and saying, man, that guy developed into a fantastic big man in college basketball.
Go to K-State. Give us the storyline. Zuby didn't do it. Come on, Udeh. Do it. Do it. Go. Give us that juice. Give us that drama. Let's see it happen. Go somewhere where we can watch. I agree. I think he'll be good. Man, we did not expect that news today. Don't know why. I guess it shouldn't be that wild and unexpected. I just did not see it coming. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to hit some quick topics, a couple of Chiefs scheduling notes. We'll get to Adrian Griffin. We'll give you the latest on the Chiefs schedule, and we'll dive into it in hour number 2. Let's give away some Fast X tickets here. It's the latest Fast and Furious movie hitting theaters next week. We got pairs of tickets to a special Thursday preview at Boulevard Theaters in Town West Square, 7 o'clock. First caller to the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. We'll get a pair of tickets. We'll be right back.
.97.5 and 1240 KFH.